as the development and changes that are now being made to the Pacific Nations Cup. Now, if you didn't know what the Pacific Nations Cup is, that is the former competition that was against basically the Pacific Islands. It was Fiji, Tonga, Samoa competing against each other. This competition is now being expanded to include the USA, Canada, and Fiji, and Japan. I'm sorry, and Japan into it. And it is now going to be used as one of the demarcators to the demarcators into the Nations Cup itself. So it's interesting. It once again we get more increase of games. It's not unusual for the USA to play Japan or to play Tonga. That has been pretty fairly normal. But I think this format is what is actually taking the change itself. So now the rules that are going to be happening in this one is number one, it's going to be taking place in August and September. It's going to be 2 pools of 3, Fiji, Samoa, Tonga in one pool, Canada, Japan, USA in the other. Minimum of 3 matches per team. It's going to be a round-robin pool match followed by its final series that will take place either in Japan or USA. That is incredibly important because, again, World Rugby is trying to make sure that we get people going into the Rugby World Cup in 2031. And I think that is why they want to do it in both of these places. I think Japan plays in because of what happened in 2019. They saw the influx. That $5 billion marker is such a huge umbrella being hung over World Rugby and their ability to make money, because Rugby World Cup is their money, is their fundraiser, essentially. So I think they want to be able to get it in these 2 quote, quote, economically powerful nations. Obviously, technically it really should be in like Fiji or Samoa, but obviously those countries are way too small, way too expensive for teams to really get to on any regular basis. But most importantly, they're way too small, and the distributors and sponsors are less likely to try and put it there because they get less buying power, arguably. So that finals is going to alternate every other year, which is going to be important again in determination of how we are able to expand in this and what the development is. My thoughts on this one is, once again, I don't know if this is going to necessarily hurt or help the game itself. I don't feel like the issue for a lot of these teams, or even for World Rugby, or even for international play, is that ultimately they are not having enough games to play. I think the biggest issue is that you're not bringing enough eyes to the screen. You are not engaging the audience that is on the ground, and you're not doing enough to be able to build from the children up inside these tier 2 nations. What happens at the top is simply a result of what you've done at the base. The more games that you have, if you're not promoting them in a way that engages that base more, is not going to do one lick of difference for anything. It's not going to do one lick of difference for any of it. But if you're able to engage that bottom and find a way to be able to trickle down effect that into your grassroots play, not just your club play, but into your youth development. And we're talking about 3 to 8, and then obviously 10 to 13. That's where you see the basis, especially in these bigger nations. And that's also going to impact things like South America, what you do in Asia, which are also 2 areas that have the highest economic and population growth, but are ironically the ones that are still being left out of the main competitions, which obviously I think World Rugby is hoping Japan will help be the leader for that for Asia, and then obviously the USA for the Americas. But I don't know. This one is a very, 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 very iffy. I want to kind of look at one of the things that were said in this when it came to the development of the Nations Cup and this process. Take it over to X, because obviously that's the place to go. You got to find your stuff over there. But one thing that I think is most interesting, and this was said, Paul Tate. Argentina was not for the lack of relegation. Argentina, which famously known Agustin Pichot who tried to run for chairman of World Rugby in 2020 and lost, is one of the leaders for this Argentina team. The Paul Tate, who is the one of the co-founders for America's Rugby News, great website. You probably have already heard it if you're paying attention. If you haven't, definitely go check them out. Talked about this. So he really broke it down. He was like, Argentina in tier 2 requested promotion relegations, which was green lighted, but obviously the timing for that is pushed back. Different unions have more power than others. So no move from World Rugby to democratize one vote for all. So places like Uruguay, Chile, Portugal, Georgia, Tonga, Samoa have less votes or no votes whatsoever. Also, what it means in terms of the relegation means that, we talked about this with Italy, using Italy as an example. The tours to North America, no. Tours to Uruguay and Chile, no. Samoa and Tonga, no. Georgia and Portugal, no. Namibia, no. It simply sticks within that tier 1 area. Also, before this came out, before the announcement came, and that was the North and South Cup, the World Rugby using the Pacific Nations Cup as a South second division, removing Fiji and Japan out into the Division 1. And so you have it like zones like Zone A, Samoa, Tonga, Canada, USA, Namibia, Hong Kong, and Zone B, Chile, Uruguay, Georgia, Romania, Portugal, Spain, Samoa, and Hong Kong, but not versus Wallabies and All Blacks. So tier 2 sticking in tier 2, and the Pacific Nations Cup being used as that format to make that go.
I ain't convinced. Black out of 10. Gassed up, they gon' let me, fill up the tank.